popular modern idea says that much of our life runs on subconscious programming formed in early childhood. In Vedic language, this is very close to what we call samskara, the deep impressions left in the mind through repeated experience. These impressions don't just sit quietly in the background. They become patterns, they become reactions, they become habits, they become identity. And eventually, they become destiny. According to the ideas discussed in this video, much of human behavior is driven by programs installed in the early years of life, especially through observation, repetition, and emotionally charged experiences. In Vedic understanding, this is exactly how samskaras, or programming, are formed. A child watches the world, a child absorbs emotional tone, a child internalizes fear, shame, confidence, trust, insecurity, abundance, or struggle. The child may not analyze it logically. The child may not even understand it, but the impressions go in. That is the Vedic insight. What is repeatedly experienced becomes mentally impressed. And from those impressions arise vasanas, subconscious tendencies that keep pushing thought and behavior in familiar directions. So if a person grows up with messages like, life is hard, you are not enough, success is for other people, love is unstable, and you don't deserve more, then those thoughts may stop sounding like outside voices and start sounding like me. That is how conditioning becomes identity. One of the most important distinctions in Vedic science is this. You are not your conditioning, you are not your passing thoughts, you are not your fear patterns, and you are not your inherited emotional loops. Those belong to the conditioned mind. In Vedic language, the lower mind, manas, reacts. It receives impressions, and it loops through memory, emotion, and sensory habit. But the higher faculty, buddhi, can observe, discriminate, and redirect. This is powerful, because it means transformation is possible. If you were only your programming, there would be no freedom. But Vedic wisdom says your deeper consciousness is greater than the patterns inside the mind. So the goal is not self-hatred, the goal is not guilt, the goal is awareness. Because awareness is the beginning of mastery. Have you ever wondered why intelligent people still sabotage themselves? Why someone can read books, watch motivational videos, and sincerely want change, but still fall back into the same emotional habits? The answer is simple. Information is not the same as transformation. You can learn something intellectually, but still live from an older inner pattern. Vedic science would say that knowledge at the surface level is not enough if the samskara underneath remains unchanged. That's why someone can say, I want peace, but keep choosing chaos. I want abundance, but keep acting from scarcity. I want love, but keep reacting from fear. The conscious mind may want one life, while the conditioned pattern may be producing another. And until the deeper pattern is addressed, effort alone can feel exhausting. So how do you change? This is where Vedic science becomes deeply practical. The ancient answer is Abhyasa, repeated conscious practice. Not random effort, not occasional inspiration, not one powerful weekend, but repeated practice, repeated thought, repeated remembrance, repeated redirection, and repeated inner alignment. In modern language, you might call this rewiring. In Vedic language, you are reshaping samskara through Abhyasa. This is also where Sankalpa becomes important. A Sankalpa is not just a wish. It is not vague positivity. It is a sacred, focused inner resolve, a clear statement of the reality you choose to align with. For example, I am guided by clarity, not fear. My consciousness is stronger than my old patterns. I choose sattva, balance, and truth. I act from dignity, discipline, and inner power. When Sankalpa is repeated with emotion, attention, and consistency, it begins to compete with old conditioning, and over time, it can replace it. This is something both modern self-development and Vedic psychology agree on. Repetition shapes identity. What you repeat, you strengthen. If you repeat fear, fear deepens. If you repeat distraction, distraction deepens. If you repeat self-respect, self-respect deepens. If you repeat sacred intention deepens. This is why daily practices matter, such as mantra, breath regulation, focused contemplation, disciplined affirmations, visualization, svadhyaya, or self-study, and consistent sattvic living. These are not spiritual extras, they are technologies of consciousness. They help the mind stop living as a prisoner of old impressions. Vedic science would frame this as a disturbance in inner harmony. When the system is dominated by fear, agitation, overreaction, and constant survival thinking, rajas becomes excessive. The mind becomes restless, the breath becomes shallow, the nervous system becomes defensive, decision making becomes reactive, and clarity declines. This is why so many people feel spiritually disconnected even while being mentally busy all day. Because noise is not intelligence, agitation is not power, and constant mental movement is not awakened consciousness. Healing begins when we move towards sattva, clarity, balance, purity, order, light, and inner steadiness. That is when higher intelligence can function again. You may have inherited patterns, you may have received conditioning, but you do not have to remain ruled by it. You may have old programming, but through awareness, discipline, and right practice, you can replace it. This is the real shift from reaction to observation, from observation to discipline, from discipline to transformation, and from transformation to mastery. That is Vedic science. Not blind belief, not empty ritual, but the systematic refinement of consciousness. So if you feel stuck in repeating cycles, remember, your pattern is not your essence, your conditioning is not your highest identity, and your past impressions do not have to define your future. Establish a powerful Sankalpa, a manifestation, to reprogram your subconscious, and practice until a new inner reality becomes natural. That is how you reclaim authorship over your life. If this video helped you, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and comment below with this phrase, "I am not my conditioning. I am ready to reprogram my subconscious." Love, peace, and contentment to you all.